Hello everyone, my name is Dylan Ibrahimi. This is our presentation called Carrying the Torch, Reducing Child Labor in Shipbreaking Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a developing nation which lies between India and Myanmar. As the nation grows, there's a high demand for infrastructure for steel. A beached German tanker ship off the coast of Chattogram, a coastal division, gave rise to the shipbreaking industry, wherein retired commercial vessels are beached and dismantled for their raw materials. Shipbreaking labor is considered one of the world's deadliest occupations, and 1 in 4 workers are children. We propose a 1 year trial of a conditional cash transfer program. Our program seeks to remove children from shipbreaking labor in Kumira, a satellite to Chattogram proper, and simultaneously increase enrollment in primary education as well as determine whether monetary aid is adequate to reducing child labor or if social sentiments still hinder progress. Like many developing nations, child labor is a normal part of life in Bangladesh. Its necessity dependent upon a child's family's situation and social status. Eliminating child labor is key to reducing poverty as education leads to better outcomes. A notable effort that serves as partial inspiration for our policy is the 1995 Bangladesh Memorandum of Understanding on Child Labor in the Garment Industry. This MOU was a joint effort by multiple organizations to transition child laborers out of garment factories and into education programs. Children are much more desirable due to them being willing to work in worse conditions for lower pay, and they are unable to unionize. A key dynamic in the shipbreaking industry is that it is not only a larger supply of employment, but it's also one of the nation's only sources of iron and steel. Taking these factors into mind, it is clear that the demand for cheap child labor is high. Bangladesh is facing challenges like financial constraints and the bureaucratic inefficiencies has the opportunity to increase the number of school enrollments and achieve long-term economic growth. On the coast of Bangladesh, within the Chattogram division, lie dozens of shipbreaking yards where large deep-sea vessels go to be dismantled. These yards employ local and immigrant labor, much of it induced by debt bondage practices, and of this labor, around 25% are children, boys 14 to 18, even some as young as 10. Households affected by poverty are reliant on their child's income, an obstacle to providing them with primary education. Poor households are also scouted for child labor in exchange for cash advance to work. This becomes a shackle as the child must now work for years in the shipyards to pay off this loan. These factors, in combination with the exogenous effect of a low social sentiment towards primary education, needs to be combated. Cash transfer programs can change the future of children in poverty. We see how they have made an impact in Mexico and Bangladesh. In Mexico, the Progreso program helped ease extreme poverty by providing cash benefits to families on one condition: their child must attend school and visit health clinics. This led to a significant increase in attendance at school as well as reducing child labor, though this did benefit boys slightly more than girls. In Bangladesh, a social safety net program lowered child labor by up to 2.9%. However, it did also increase early school dropouts, mostly due to economic struggles. Over the years, their school retention has improved. On the other hand, conditional cash transfers in Bangladesh had a major impact on nutrition, reducing child malnutrition by 40% and increasing awareness about proper infant care. Inspired by initiatives like PES Oportunidades and PKH, this CCT policy aims to reduce child labor and shipbreaking and improve education outcomes for children in Kumira, Chattogram, targeting boys aged 8 to 14 who are most vulnerable to shipyard labor. The intervention will identify qualifying households based on income, proximity to shipyards, and child labor involvement. 300 qualifying households will be divided into 3 risk categories. The first being high likelihood of child labor or debt bondage, the second is a medium likelihood, and the third is a low likelihood. Each category will have a recipient and control group. Recipient households will receive a monthly stipend of $100 per day and school supply vouchers. Households in debt bondage will also have their debt settled. Stipends are conditional on 85% school attendance with penalties for non-compliance. The local school will distribute the stipends inspired by the primary education stipend. In order to acquire adequate data, we will be providing aid for 1 year to the select households. This time period is justified by the pre-existence of many cash aid and family assistance programs in Bangladesh, such as the Primary Education Stipend Program, the National Social Safety Net Program, and Income Support Program for the poorest, to name a few. Many families qualifying for multiple aid programs, and we want to minimize any disturbance or complications qualifying caused by the aid offered to recipient households. 1 year will provide 2 semesters worth of data to observe our effects our policy has had on child labor and education compared to the control group, including return to labor, household income, education attendance, and family sentiment toward education. Our sample of 300 households is homogeneous enough to conduct random sampling when selecting the recipient's household. Effects of the aid over the years of the policy's trial will be observed by comparing the rate of children entering or re-entering ship-breaking labor as well as the rate of school attendance. Our methodology behind splitting the qualifying households into 3 groups is to use households' current proximity or involvement in the ship-breaking industry as a proxy for the likelihood of child labor. Due to the short duration of the trial period, our analysis will seek positive or negative trends based on attendance or labor, or entry or re-entry. These trends will use Bangladesh's national progress towards increasing education and reducing child labor as a baseline rate to compare our findings to. Results will be based on findings from comparing the recipient groups for each category against their corresponding control group. We hope to find an increase in the percentage of students enrolled full-time, as well as a reduction in child labor rate. We expect a 10 to 20 point increase in full-time enrollment among children in the high likelihood group and smaller gains of 5 to 10 points for the other groups. We project a 10-point increase in daily attendance across all groups. If no children were to return to the labor by the end of the trial period, we could expect a 2.5% reduction of child labor and shipbreaking in the Kumira area. It is unlikely that all participants will be able to solely attend school, especially for the high likelihood group, so we anticipate a greater shift toward informal and part-time labor for this group when compared to others. Table 1 shows the school attendance by age and sex Bangladesh in 2004. For females, the highest attendance rate is at 8.93%, and for the males at 9.90%. Beyond those ages, school attendance rate gradually declines for both genders to upper 40% by age 15. One of the expected results is to increase the amount of students attending school on the ages between 10 to 18 on both genders. Even though the data is from 2004, the country has developed the same pattern through the years until now. Key challenges include ensuring consistent student enrollment, recruiting households due to stricter participation requirements, and transitioning adolescent boys back into education, as many may see work as more valuable than schooling. Other potential drawbacks include misuse and fraud, which can be addressed by monitoring cash transfer and using digital payments. There's also a risk of increased informal child labor, which can be countered by strong labor law enforcement and community awareness. Fiscal sustainability can be ensured through diversified funding, while the readiness of the education system can be improved by partnering with local schools. The Ministry of Labor and Employment in Bangladesh sets the minimum monthly wage for apprenticeship breaking workers at 8 to 12,000 taka, which is equivalent to 70 to 100 USD. With an estimated 14,000 child laborers in Chittagong shipbreaking yards and 700 children at risk in Kumira, our study will focus on a sample of 150 children. Each will receive a stipend of $100 a month, totaling to 15,000 a month for 150 children. For households with 2 or more boys in shipbreaking, both children receive this stipend. Additionally, 20% of households are expected to be in debt bondage, requiring an estimated 3,000 for debt repayment. The total budget in the first year of the program is 190,000, which includes initial household surveying, debt repayments, and monthly stipends. As there are many national aid programs pre-existing in the Bangladesh, our primary consideration is that the introduction of a new CCT program may disqualify already pre-qualified households for certain programs due to the increase in income. Participation in child labor goes against the Bangladesh Labor Act and International Labor Organization's conventions. Our fear is that our fear is that identifying and publicizing the involvement of a given child in the labor may create legal consequences for the parent, potentially canceling out any benefits of the policy. To mitigate the risk, direct coordination with government enforcement bodies will be intentionally limited. At first, implementing our policy would have to would have a slower start as the policy is the first being introduced, but still adding significant gains in the first year, but then the full effects take place in the education and job market section of the economy begin to see positive results around the second year, where education really sees a boost through our policy proposal. These numbers and this model don't dictate the exact results or outcomes, since the future is unpredictable, but an estimate of what would take place if the policy were to be implemented into Bangladesh. With our policy implemented, child labor will be reduced and a healthier and positive workforce will recreate Bangladesh's economy as seen on our chart. To sum up our research, Bangladesh's societal norms and ecosystems need deep change from their current state in order to discourage child labor. Our policy proposal will make the changes needed to put Bangladesh on the right track economically. We want to invest in the children of Bangladesh to brighten the future of this beautiful country. Thank you guys for listening.